Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be using this really fun caffeinated bug set that I picked up from the Not Too Shabby shop, and I'm going to be pairing it with this Simon Says Stamp floral set. It is a well-loved, well-used set in my stash, and I am going to use the Praying Mantis. Now, a few years back, our kids found a praying mantis and they named it Manny. And they kept it for a while. I know that's not like something that you should always do, but they really enjoyed learning all about the praying mantis. So when this set came out, I absolutely was drawn to it. So here I stamped Manny, and then I also stamped a mask on some Gina K masking magic paper, and then I trimmed it out. I didn't worry about the antenna or anything because that isn't really going to matter too much. And you can see the low tack on this masking paper. It picked right up with my stamp. So this is where I wish I would have put it in a larger stamping position tool. I mean, in the end, I didn't really need it, but here I was struggling getting a really good solid image of this big floral because it kind of hangs off the Misty, my little mini Misty there. And every time I stamped it, this mask came up. I was getting kind of frustrated, but it just shows that it's not going to tear my paper. Like if I was to use this, it's good masking paper. I'm liking it. And I have probably used up a couple of sheets. Finally, I think I got it stuck down so where it doesn't peel up every time. So I stamped the big floral spray, and it didn't stamp all the way up in the corner. It's not going to really matter. I'm not going to need it to be up in that corner, but I also wanted to add an additional flower. So the point of what I'm doing here is I want the praying mantis to be in the flowers. And I seen Amanda Stevens. She is on the Rabbit Hole design team. She did a card for Mother's Day with an ant, and it was in big florals, and it just gave me giant ideas. I wanted to hide this little Manny in some flowers, and I thought that these big giant flowers from Simon Says Stamp would be perfect for this. And I am so glad I did this. So I did stamp this all on Bristol Smooth, which is probably why the mask was coming up so much, because it has that vellum layer on it. And I'm going to do this coloring, some of it very slow, and then I'm going to speed it up in parts. But I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I don't pull them out very often. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love them. I'm hoping to pull them out a little bit more often because I did absolutely enjoy coloring this. Now, a lot of people use a water brush with these. I don't like them with a water brush as much as I like them with the blender brush. When Zig came out with the blender brush, it was a game changer for me. I love it. I find that they're very vibrant and they're gorgeous, but the browns that are in there, if I use water, they always seem to pull like purple. They look purple to me. So I like the blender brush because it doesn't do that. I'm not using any browns. Well, a little bit of brown, but I'm not really using any browns. So I don't know why I told you that part of the story, except for I'm using the blender brush and not water because I have gotten into the habit of blender brush over water because I like it. So here, this part looks kind of scary. I am going to blend purple and green. And you know what? Mother Nature does this all the time. I know you can get brown or mud with it. So I was just very careful. You know, Mother Nature knows what she's doing. And I did Google search some praying mantises before I started coloring this one. The one that we had was just green, a couple of shades of green. But there are some beautiful praying mantises, white with purple edging and all sorts of stuff. And there was one that was this green and it had like kind of a purpley pink color on it. And I thought that that purpley pink color would be really good for the florals. And that would lead me to believe that Manny is hiding in those flowers and is camouflaged really well. So I'm just kind of going around little Manny here, and I'm adding color to all of the bits and pieces. Now, I'm not going to show you all of the coloring of the entire thing. I'll show you some of it, and then the repetitive stuff I won't show, but I did want to show the entire coloring of Manny because I thought it was pretty cool. It just kind of pops out. At first, it's kind of hard to see in the floral there, and then as I color it, it pops right out. So the flowers, I started with a darker purple and I went in the shadow areas, and I'm going to start this coloring out very slow. I just sped it up just a little bit and cut out just the dead space. But I went for the darkest color and then I pulled it out with a lighter purple color. Now these do kind of read magenta, I guess. And then I blended them out to the edges of the petals with my blender brush. Now I do have a little scrap piece of, well, it was a Post-it note sticking off to the side where I'm wiping off the tip of the blender brush and the lighter marker when I blend with it. So I'm just going to show you a couple of these petals here kind of at real speed, and then I will speed it up, and we're going to color this flower and a couple other petals, and then we'll move on to the greens. So again, you can see that I put the darker color in, the lighter, and then I carefully blended out to the edge of the petal and made sure I left a really good highlight out there. I made sure that I added shadows here around Manny's cups because Manny has 2 cups of coffee. I am super jealous that Manny has enough hands to hold 2 cups of coffee at one time. But now that I think about it, I haven't had coffee in a few days, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe I have to have some tomorrow. So again, blending out to the edges with some lighter, or with the lighter tone, and then with the blender brush here. You can see the fine tip on these Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers allows you to really get into those super tiny spaces. And because I layered this image on top of the flower, there are lots and lots of little tiny spaces to get into. So I thought that these markers would be really good for this. And they're also really vibrant and beautiful. And I hadn't played with them in a while, and I really wanted to pull them out. I was stuck in a rut for a while with only coloring with my Copics. And then in March, I kind of laid my Copics down and did watercoloring for pretty much the entire month. And then I have dabbled in a few things here and there, and I pulled these out. I wanted to give them a good solid shot again and see how much I do like them or dislike them. And again, I really do like them. The coloring is fairly fast with them. This did take me quite a bit, but it is a lot to color. I know that with my Copics, I probably could have done it a little bit faster, but I was kind of enjoying myself, and sometimes the speed at which you color does not matter. The outcome matters. Or the outcome is, I don't know, the coloring process is fun. Enjoy yourself. So here I'm just filling in this one flower around Manny here. And I'm going to keep referring to this praying mantis as Manny. I will say the rabbit hole designs kind of missed out on a really good sentiment opportunity instead of like the sentiment. I mean, there's some fun sentiments in the set, but they missed out on praying for coffee. Like, that was a perfect sentiment for this little critter. So here I'm just showing you a couple additional petals. You can see at this point I had gotten much more comfortable, and I was coloring a couple of petals at a time. It made things go way faster. But this is all that I'm going to show you of this coloring. And then I'm going to move on to the green. I figured you didn't need to watch me color all of this. You can see my little sticky note off to the side there where I'm wiping my markers off on, and then I'm using the same green combination that I used to color Manny to color the greens that are in this image. I wanted this praying mantis to really blend in well. Like if you just glanced at it, you didn't see it. And I will tell you that when I handed this card to my husband and said, "What do you think?" He said, "That's a really pretty flower." I said, "You don't see the bug?" He said, "What bug?" And then he looked closer and he said, "Oh, there's a praying mantis in there." So he did not see it. I will say he's not always the most observant person on the planet, but he seen it finally, and he missed it at first. So it was kind of like I had achieved my goal of hiding the praying mantis in the flower. For the little mugs, I wanted a pop of color, so I used, there's a lot of color on here, but I wanted an additional pop of color, so I brought in this aqua combination, and then I brought in a little bit of brown for the coffee because coffee is brown. Recently, I was introduced to a company called A Colorful Life Designs by my friend Nancy. She just started on their design team, and I wanted to support her, so I went to their website and I found some really cool stencils. Now, I have been loving stencils. I picked up a bunch of stencils from Jamie's shop not that long ago, but I thought that this circular motion stencil from A Colorful Life Designs was the perfect backdrop for this. And I just kind of stenciled it carefully around my image. And then I pulled out, this is where I realized that I needed to blend these little buds up at the top a little bit better. And you can see that I did blend them into the pink, kind of just like the, like Manny. So you can see where the buds were about to open. So this stitched rectangle die, I wanted to make sure that I had enough image to fill it in, that it was all the way colored. So I trimmed this out. I ran that through my die cut machine, and then I pulled out these sentiments from the Rabbit Hole Designs. I love their sentiments. They're always kind of quirky and fun. And this sentiment set has been hanging around my craft room, and I think I've only used one or two of them. I need to use them all. I need to use them all. And then this is the element for, I think it's the caffeine element or the chemical makeup or whatever. And I stamped this in the background with the same Twisted Citron ink that I used to stencil. This is actually not even important because in the end, you can't even see it. Like, it's pretty much covered up with the sentiment strips. And I'll tell you a little story on how we got to all the sentiment strips. And here you can see that I had stamped out a bunch of them on some black cardstock. At this point, I had already screwed up my card. I had stamped this black sentiment. This is "Don't bug me, I haven't had my coffee yet" on my card. And I stamped it in I stamped it in Versamark ink and heat embossed it. And I didn't like it. I hated it. It didn't stand out. It just blended in way too much. I hated it. And then I stamped it again and he embossed it in white over top of that. And I hated it even more. It was terrible. It just wasn't what I wanted. So then I stamped out all these little sentiments here. And you can see that I'm like playing around. I glued the one down because I needed to cover that mistake. There was way too much coloring on this card for me to toss it. It is really pretty, and I didn't really want to give up. I kept playing. So I found a third strip sentiment, and I stamped that again on some black cardstock and heat embossed that with some white Simon Says Stamp embossing powder. Now that powder bag that I use, I always use it. It's from Scrap Perfect. I get the best embossing out of it, and I just wipe their little yellow cloth over top after I'm done, and it takes all of that powder away. So here I decided I'm going to add 3 sentiment strips up at the top, a longer one, a mid one, and then a short one. I just feel like the addition of the 3 sentiments at the top kind of balances off that big, bold, chunky sentiment at the bottom. And it kind of looks like I planned it, which I did not. I just told you that there was a bunch of mistakes that led us to this. But it definitely frames in what's going on here. And Manny is standing on the bottom sentiment, so that kind of works out like, hey, I'm in the flower, but hey, I'm standing here. So then I pulled out this sequin mix from, I believe this one is from Simon Says Stamp. It's got these kind of clear green and clear pink sequins in there, so I just scattered those across my card front here and glued them down. I really like adding sequins. I was on team no sequins for a very long time. I thought that they just look stupid. Now I love them. I don't know how that works, but all of a sudden you just decide that something is awesome. Do you do that? Do you decide that something is awesome after you've been like on team no, I'm not doing that for a while? So I adhered to this card front to a card base. It's just an A2 top folding card base, and I use Michael's cardstock. I find that it's the best value for my money there for that. Just trimmed it off because I swear it's never straight. And then I had a sequin that either fell off or was stacked, and then I just used this stencil on the inside just to add a little bit of interest. So that is my card. I would love to know. Oh, before we go, we can't leave his eye. I was trying not to make it bloodshot. I always color them bloodshot. I can't help it. I feel like they need the caffeine, and where would we be without bloodshot eyes and cups of coffee? And then I added a little glossy accents to the eye just to make it shiny. So here are the still shots of my card. I would love to know what you think. Make sure you stop by Jamie's shop. N2S10 will get you 10% off. I'll have the link to this stamp set below. And I would encourage you to also check out Amanda Stevens. I will have her blog linked below so you can see her card that she made for the rabbit hole designs. And thank you for stopping by. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.